Good morning, welcome to the chicken episode.
Scallywally, 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 scallywallies. Just a quick flashback to start us off. This was the day that we picked them up.
Okay, so we've had our new girls for about 3 weeks now. It might be 3.5 weeks, and they're settling in really well. They like their new pink roofed house. We haven't let them out yet, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. So the hens that we have are Pekin Bantams, so they're very small. There's a couple of different types of bantams. So Pekin Bantams are true bantams. You only get small size Pekins, that you don't get a larger version of it, whereas a lot of other bantam hens that you will get are miniature versions of a larger variety of chicken. So they've been bred to be smaller rather than they're just smaller naturally. And the Pekin Bantams have a really distinctive body shape. They are short and squat with a big tail mound way down to the feet. They're feathered, whereas a normal chicken, although there's quite a lot of body shape variation in hens in general, normally they're more kind of this shape, and Pekin Bantams are more this shape, if you see what I mean by the difference between them. So why do we have bantams? We started off keeping large, like big size chickens, but we were given some bantams. We didn't really know what bantams were. We were given some years and years ago, and from that moment we haven't looked back. So when we had big chickens are wonderful obviously, but they're very destructive just because of their size. We had the whole area outside of our shed was the chicken run. When we were up here, they just had free run of that area, and they just turned it into like the Battle of the Somme. It was just trenches and huge, like they made dust bowls in everything, but because they were such big robust hens, they could really dig, and they had these big cavities, and the number of twisted ankles going down chicken dust baths was countless. When we got the bantams, it totally changed things. They are, just because of their size and their nature, they're really delicate little birds. They're not so aggressive, or we haven't found them to be so aggressive, and they're just a joy to keep as chickens. They really are. I knew there must be a reason why they were called Pekin Bantams, from like Peking. So I actually looked it up, and supposedly the reason is that French and British soldiers during the Opium Wars stole some. This particular breed of chicken was kept in the Imperial Palace in China in Pekin, and the French and the British soldiers stole them and took them back to Europe, and they became a huge craze, and they were known as Pekin Bantams. I believe they are called Cochins in the USA. I could have that wrong, but just from my cursory interneting, they seem to be called Cochins on all the American sites, so I'm guessing. But yeah, so Pekins, obviously Peking isn't called Peking anymore, it's Beijing, I think. Yeah, it's Beijing now. But apparently back in the 19th century, they were sometimes called Shanghai chickens, so there was obviously a connection somewhere in there. So most different chicken breeds have a different amount that they'll kind of on average lay each year. Obviously commercial chickens have a unbelievable laying rate, like every day. Bantams have a much lower rate of lay. They lay on average about 150 eggs each a year. We're not massive egg eaters, and we keep them for the eggs, of course, and we also keep them just because we love keeping chickens. So that's not the major factor for us, is like egg production. But also bantam eggs are really tiny. I don't have any to show you because our girls aren't laying yet, but they are really small. But what's really nice about them is that the ratio yolk to white, the yolk is huge. I mean, the yolk's not as big as a normal hen's egg, but the white is so much less, so you get a really, like when you make neon scrambled egg basically if you're using bantam eggs. And I'm not a great fan of the white, so that's a massive advantage for me. And also, like I say, we're not huge egg eaters, but since we started keeping chickens, we've started eating a lot more eggs obviously, and since we lost our last chickens, we actually haven't had any eggs, so we are really looking forward to these girls starting to lay. So anyway, the Pekin Bantams, that is who we've got. and I'm going to introduce them to you. We took a bit of time over naming them. Funnily enough, we've gone back to the first names that we thought of. When we were coming back in the car, I had this kind of swirling of two of theirs names in my head, and we've ended up going back to them. So let me introduce you to, this is Millie. She is a Millefleur. She's the really chatty one, so she's got a beautiful little voice. The other two have got really quite loud voices, but she's got a little tiny voice. She's ever so sweet. She's got a gorgeous little face. I'll do a close-up of her when she's back down on the ground. She's really inquisitive. Our old chickens were not that adventurous. Like, they used to go out and about, obviously, and they were quite adventurous that way. But within their own house, not that adventurous. These girlies, all over the place. I've been putting bits up for them and everything, and they are loving it. Millie is probably one of the most adventurous of them. She's the first one to go after anything that's new. So put something new somewhere, she's there. Yeah, little girl. She's so sweet. She's so sweet. Right, I'm going to swap her over for someone else now. Okay, girlie? Yeah, I know. This is our chief chicken. It's Florence, or Flo. I'm going to put her down now. But she is, let me just do a close-up for you, and then I'll put her down and tell you all about her. Oh, no close-up of Flo. I'm going to go get you some banana. Yeah, so Flo, I'm pretty certain, is our top dog chicken. She's the top of the pecking order. She was quite dominant right from the get-go, and she's kind of maintained that. She's not as adventurous as the other two about climbing up over stuff, but, you know, she gets on with things. She's got a much louder voice than the other two as well, so she's quite kind of domineering in that sense. She's not that convinced about a cuddle, though. Are you, Flo? No, not convinced. We'll work on you. Look at that fluffy bum. You got a fluffy bum? Yeah. And this is Ruby. Hey, Ruby. She's a really lovely chicken. So we're not entirely sure who the chief chicken is yet. I'm pretty sure it's Florence, but she is in contention. She tends to follow, but what she does do is a lot of grooming. So at first there was a lot of, she was standing up, but now that has changed to grooming. So I think she has accepted her position in the group. So this is chicken number 2. Millie is the bottom of the group, but she's just so gentle and so sweet. The main beef comes between Florence and Ruby. Beep beep, this is editing Jessie. Just after I recorded that bit about the pecking order, this is what happened. So we've got Flo, she's top dog, she's on top of the bucket, queen of the castle. And I was saying that Millie and Ruby don't really have much beef with each other, they're quite fine. All of a sudden, Ruby starts trying to goad Flo off the bucket, and Millie gets involved. Oh, look at her. Look at her go. Go, Millie. Hey? I've never seen that from them before. Right, back to the order of play. Sorry. Hey, Ruby. So she's got gorgeous colouring. She's a lavender. She's very pale around the feet area and really dark just up here. She's a gorgeous chicken. Hey? A gorgeous chicken. Are you ready to go down? I'm going to put her down now. But she's a gorge. Go on. So we're making progress on the picking up front. They're quite happy. I mean, obviously this is a bit weird because I've got the setup of, I've got the stool in here with the camera, so they're a bit on edge because they don't know what's going on. And new things in the cage is still all a bit scary for them at the moment. So the stool has kind of put them on edge. But when they're sat on the perches, just on the edge of the thing, I mean, they will let me pat them now, so it's coming good. They've done all that shouting and huffing and, you know, feather pluffing and everything and escaping my cuddles. But they're back here now, like they're not running away, they're now eating a piece of banana at my feet. So they're still really young. We got them when they were 11 and a bit weeks old, and so we worked it back that they were hatched on the 28th of May. So they are now, what, 14, 15 weeks, and they won't start laying until they're about 6 months old. But that can be delayed if we're coming into autumn or winter, because sometimes chickens, you know, they don't lay as many over winter, or they have a gap or they're molting or something like that. And although I think we might have a few sporadic eggs maybe over winter, I think they're going to come in to lay properly in spring next year, just because of the timing. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so between 6 and 8 months old is when they start laying, and these girls are only, what, 13, 14 weeks, so we've got a bit of time to go yet. But they're still learning everything. I find it really interesting that these are the first, apart from those first 3 hens that we got all those years ago, which were the big beefy chickens, these are the first hens that we've had which haven't had a crossover. Like, they're either joining our flock, or there's been at least always one chicken to like tide them over and pass on the information. So the fact that when we give them mealyworms or when we shake the tin, the chickens will come running, and then it teaches the younger birds or the newer birds or whoever we've rescued or we've been given away or whatever, teaches them what they're supposed to be doing. And these girls don't have that, so they're sort of learning from scratch, and it's really interesting because I hadn't realised how much of the information is passed across. For example, we used to hang vegetation like chimidorepolis or turnip tops or carrot tops or anything like that on strings from the ceiling for the other girls, because it would give them something a bit more exciting to do. They could pull it all apart and have a great time. These girls, if you hang something from the ceiling and it's moving around in the breeze, it's the most terrifying thing ever. So they all go running and flying everywhere. So we haven't quite got to that stage yet. I'm sure they'll learn eventually. Likewise we've got a little bird feeder, you know, just one that you would normally hang outside for wild birds. We've got one of them which normally hangs on the side of the cage, and that's normally stuffed full of greens, various bits and pieces for them to eat. Likewise with that, when they go and try and pull something out, because it's just hanging on the side and it moves, poof, everyone explodes and gets terrified and runs back inside this house. They're cowards at the moment. Although they're cowards in that sense, they're really, really adventurous. So I'm just going to take you on a bit of a tour around the new things that we've put in here, because I've made a little platform for them to go up, and they're using that quite a lot, which is really nice. Pink House is working out very well. They seem very happy with it, don't you girls?
You gonna give me a pink roof house review, ladies? Not much to say about it right now.
Okay, I'm going to turn the camera around. Hey girls. Yeah, so this is what they're not liking, that I've got this stool in here. They're really not impressed with that. I'll get rid of it in a minute, girls. I'll get rid of it in a minute. You see, they've just got used to the fact that the food dispenser, you know, the pellet box, whatever you call it, is swings. They're now pretty relaxed about that, so I think it's going to come around that they'll be okay with the swinging vegetation at some point. But let me show you. So they are the 2 perches over there that I put in when we were doing the chicken house renovations, and I've added this little bit in here. So we've got one more perch up here which is at about human hip height, and then I've put a little platform up there. So I've been using these clips. It's so hot today, everything's just gone limp, so I'll go and get some more of that. But I've got these little clips just clipping vegetation onto the outside of the cage at different levels for them to come up. I do one at the end of the ramp, and also one at the end of the perch, and they do climb. They have a great time. What's really nice about this area at the top here is because when we're outside, it's at kind of our chest level, so they're kind of able to look out and they can see what we're up to and what we're doing. Because you're nosy, aren't you, girlies? Something else I've done is, you know that we had the leaf mold bin directly outside the chicken house. Well, what we realised is, because we've got all the gladioli at the front, the gladioli and the lavender and everything, that actually what was happening is that the girls couldn't see us. I mean, they could see out and look across. Because we're trying to get them used to us just being around all the time, it wasn't much good them not being able to see out. So I actually took down the top half of the leaf mould bin. You know what happens with leaf mould? When you pile it up, you've got about 2 meters cubed of it, and you give it a couple of months and it just disappears to like nothing. So anyway, it's disappeared to pretty much nothing. I've just taken down the slats and laid them on top, and then we've now got a surface outside there that we can kind of do bits of watering on and leave plants on there away from the slugs. But it also means that the girls can see out. So hopefully that's making a difference to them kind of seeing what we're up to and what we're doing. So like I was saying about the like the handover from chicken generation to generation, not that they're genetically related, but like, you know, as we get different waves of chickens coming in, they kind of teach each other. This has been our chicken keeping strategy for as long as we've had chickens. That's it. This is it. This is our only strategy, and they are so not fussed. Our other hens, I don't know whether it's because their age, it could just be because they're really young. We've never had chickens from 11 weeks before, we've always got them at point of lay, so we're just learning. But all of our other hens have been completely and utterly led by the stomachs. Like, any new bit of food you're putting in, they get well overexcited about it. You can completely like lead them around basically by food. And the biggest one being corn and mealie grubs, which is what we've got in this tin here. And the system is supposed to work that you give the chickens the mealyworms and the corn at the same time as shaking this tin, and then wherever they are on the allotment, because we will eventually let them out, wherever they are on the allotment, you shake the tin and they come running. Show you, because this is how it's supposed to work.
Come on, this way. Come on. Come on. Quickly. Naughty girls you are out there eating those cabbages, weren't you?
But at the moment, these girls are just not interested, and we won't be letting them out even into the small run until we know for sure that they will come when called. Unfortunately, these girls, the thing they seem to like the most is grass, which is fantastic. We've been putting like lumps of turf in here and they've been tearing it apart, and yeah, it's perfect. No problems with that at all, except that if we let them out, we're not going to be able to tempt them back in with grass, are we? Because it's all grass outside. So we're going to have to find something they really, really like that's not available out there, and we can shake the tin and give it to them. So they don't necessarily have to like what's in the tin, they just have to obviously associate the shaky, shaky tin with getting the treat or the thing that they really like. But at the moment, I've tried them on loads of different things and they're just not that fussed. Are you girls? No. So this is going to take a bit of strategy. When we do let them out, we'll start off with a little run, obviously just outside here. And it was really funny because, you know, I said I was looking up to see why they were called Pekin. When I did that search, like, up came a load of things about Bantams, you know, general information about them. Yeah, one of the pages that I read, or one of the information leaflet sheet things that I read, was saying that you can keep Bantams in an area with a 60-centimetre high fence because they don't fly. Whoever wrote that obviously hasn't met any of my Bantams. Our last lot, we had the omelette, you know, the chicken house company omelette. We had their really high netted fence around, which the girls could go through, like there was holes, so they could go through them. But we just had it there as sort of a general barrier to stop them. And they just flew over the top of that, and that was 1.20 meters. So I think that's totally wrong, whoever wrote that leaflet. But it remains to be seen what these girls are going to do.
Okay, my lovely girlies, do you think I've talked about how happy I am that you're here enough yet? Do you think I've talked enough about you? I think I probably have, girls. I do. I think I've done enough. Go and have a go at it. Have a go.
So that's our chickens. Florence, Millie and Ruby. That's the 3 of them. There is a reference to it. It is TV related, which is odd because I don't normally watch television very much. There's only a very few programs that I will actually watch, and this is one of them. So if you know what the reference is, tell me below. A clue to it is that Millie's name is a shortening. Anyway, tell me if you know. But yeah, if you watch the vlogs, you'll be seeing a lot more of the girls and what they're doing, what they're up to, what they're learning. I think they're gorgeous. I think they're beautiful chickens. They're really soft, really friendly. There's not been any major kerfuffles. And yeah, I will bring you along on the slightly terrifying prospect of slowly letting them out to be free-range chickens, or relatively free-range chickens. Obviously they're not out all the time, it's just when we're up here. But like I say, we've got to be 100% sure that they can come back in when we call them before we do anything like that. So wish me luck on the shaky tin training, and I'll see you on Tuesday for a vlog as normal with chickens included.
Them whirlies, them whirlies, them girlies.